Thank you, Joel. It's always so much fun to try and guess what song he's going to pull out for her prelude. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much for joining us here and at home. We are happy to have you. Please join us for our first song, which is not in the prayer book, but it's only one word, and I think you all know it already, called Haida. So if you're here, if you're home, get your sound makers, stand up, and let's get the blood flowing a little bit. To welcome Paula Liebes up to welcome us to our sanctuary, our space, and welcome us to Shabbat.
Thank you, Celia. Thank you. And welcome, everybody, to Beit Aleph Kabbalat Shabbat. And I am Paulina Liebes-Chester. First, let me express my gratitude for offering me this opportunity. The timing could not be more perfect. I just returned from the best visit to family and friends on the East Coast ever. This go-round, I was able to be more accepting of my peeps with all their issues, from narcissism, the diagnosis du jour, to depression and repressed anger, to hoarding and obsessiveness. Baruch Hashem. I was permitted to bless the whole thing. Shabbat is the gift that we're granted each week in order to practice doing just that. At 70, my birthday was last Saturday, I am reaping the rewards of years of painstaking practice to learn to be equanimous, to use a rabbi's term. What we practice, we become adept at. The holy 24 hours that occurs every week provides us with an opportunity to sit at God's banquet table, just as the Psalms describe. It is our choice whether or not to honor the gift of Shabbat. I experienced pure joy with my grandchildren on the East Coast. 2.5-year-old Zoe, born February 6th of 2020, so this was our first meeting. And big sister, 5.5-year-old Leah. Truly, children live in the moment, and I was right there with them. Time expands in this simple, unburdened consciousness. This is why and how children are truly closer to God. As we grow up and learn to be doings instead of beings, Rabbi Ted's words, our minds become cluttered with ideas for the future and critiques of past actions. When we're prevented from moving forward with important plans, we feel impatient. When time weighs heavily upon us because we lack an activity, we become bored. Bored, we long for distraction, an engaging Netflix episode, something sweet to eat. Impatient or bored or both, we fidget and ruminate. Shabbat is an opportunity to practice letting go and breathing deeply. Take a deep breath for Shabbat. During Shabbat, we can get out of our heads and off our screens and see the beauty of nature, of our loved ones, of l'chaim itself. We begin by lighting candles. I have always wondered why the blessing calls for candles, nero, plural. I have a simple explanation. With faith, we can perceive that the light is always greater than the darkness. During Shabbat, we are permitted to glimpse the oneness that is always there when we can embrace the darkness and the light together. We light a minimum of 2 candles that we circle with our hands as we consciously and intentionally bless the whole thing. Here at Beit Aleph, we like to think about the light that is awakening inside. What is it you are blessing this week? A simcha? A memory? What are you grateful for? Let go fully of the week that was. Exhale memories of trials and anxieties, and inhale a deep, healing breath of Shabbat. So I need to have the people who are coming up to light candles, and I think that piece of paper is over there. Let me grab that, because I didn't.
We will, if you're lighting candles, please come up and join us and save a candle for me. If you're not lighting candles, also please feel free to get up and pop some money in our donation box in the back. I don't have the paperwork in front of me that who we are sharing our donations with this season, so I feel terrible. But it's a wonderful organization, and you should donate to it. Sophia Way. Yes, thank you, Claire. Thank you, Claire. They are helping homeless women. Yes, homeless women, homeless families, homeless women and children. So an excellent cause to donate to. And we will be singing Sabbath prayer as our candle lighters are lighting a candle. So, yes.
May the one protect and defend you. May she always shield you from shame. May you come to be in Yisrael a shining name.
May you be like Ruth and like Esther. May you be deserving of praise. Strengthen them, O God, and keep them from the stranger's ways.
May God bless you and grant you long
May no one fulfill our
life.
Sabbath prayer for you.
May God make you good mothers and
May she
wives.
send you spouses who will care for you.
May the one protect and
May
defend
the
you.
one protect and
May
defend
the
you.
one preserve you from
May the one
pain.
preserve you from
Bless
pain.
them, O
Bless
God,
them, O God,
happiness
with
and peace.
happiness. Oh, hear our Sabbath prayer. Amen.
begin with myself. I am lighting for my big 7-0 birthday last Saturday, and this fantastic trip east. I have so much to be grateful for. Now 3 grandchildren, and they're all healthy and beautiful, and it's very exciting. So we have, Ellen and Michael Lyons are lighting a candle in honor and in memory of her mother, Patricia Baldauf, on her 25th yahrzeit. John Calvo is lighting a candle tonight in memory of his daughter-in-law, Abby Calvo. It is her 6th yahrzeit, and her passing left behind her 3- and 5-year-old children. Saul Petersky is lighting a candle tonight in celebration of 51 days of sobriety from alcohol and mind-altering substances. Wow, proud of you. Virtually, Sterling Claren is lighting a candle for his mother, Leela Claren Grossman, on her 5th yahrzeit. Ricky Levin is lighting a candle for her parents, Myron and Phyllis Levin. Myron's first yahrzeit was yesterday, August 4th. She would also like to honor her mother, Phyllis, who passed away on February 10th, 2022.
And Marianne Spiegel is lighting, in the mask, lighting a candle for her friend, Bob White, a childhood friend, who passed 3 years ago, and this is the celebration of his 3rd yahrzeit. You done? We're done?
I am technically lighting 3 candles tonight. One is in celebration of my wedding anniversary. Monday is my 7th wedding anniversary with myself and my husband, Brandon. I am lighting a candle in celebration of his mother, Bee. My mother-in-law flew in on Tuesday and will be visiting us for 2.5 months. So we have a long and wonderful visit with a woman I love very much. And my 3rd candle is I am lighting in memory of my Uncle Steve. My dad's youngest sister's husband passed away recently with complications of Alzheimer's, and I will not be at the next service because I will be at a family celebration of life. So I'm holding Uncle Steve in my memory. Let us all share the prayer that is found on page 1. And as you here and at home think about what light is lighting inside of you, let us cover our eyes and say together, sing together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirishonu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. I would now love to invite Claire Petersky to come up and lead us in the Baruch and the Shema and the Ve'ahavta.
I'm taller than Paula. There we go. Plus, I'm wearing heels, so I'm just way up here. I'm Claire Petersky. I've been a member of Beit Aleph since 1990, and once again, they have made the error of letting me up here on the bima. And we're going to begin with the Baruch Hu, which is on page I want to say 3. I don't have it memorized. 5, already 5. Okay, it's on page 5 of your prayer books. And when we do the Baruch Hu, for me at least, I don't believe in a God out there. So what I am doing when I do the Baruch Hu, I'm connecting the divine that I feel within me with the parts of the divine, the parts of me that are yearning to connect with the divine, and it's those two halves. One is blessing. First, we bless God, we bless each other. Isn't that just, So it's making a connection between those two parts of self is what I personally do during the Baruch Hu. So please rise for the Baruch Hu.
Let us say together, Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamavorach. Bless the Eternal, the one who is blessing. Baruch Adonai Hamavorach le'olam va'ed. Blessed is the Eternal, the one who is blessing eternally.
Be seated. That's because I have a few things to say. Back in May, I said a few words about Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Those are the words that follow the Shema. And since I didn't get a lot of time up here, I only got as far as Baruch Shem. I know only the first 2 words of it. And I didn't get to the rest of it. And many of you came up to me afterwards, and they said they wanted to hear the rest of the story. So here I am back up here before you, so I could do a little bit more on this declaration that we make. So I need to do a little recap from May, because you might not have been here to hear the pearls of wisdom that flew from my lips. So what I said is, first, we all know how important the Shema is, and we're totally going to do it. It's a watchword of our faith, right? So, and the words that follow it, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchut Le'olam Va'ed, it often gets kind of short shrift. I also looked up what is shrift, but that's a whole nother thing. It gets short shrift, right? Our rabbis don't necessarily talk about Baruch Shem. So when I was here in May, what I did is I suggested to you all that what we're doing here is not blessing God. Because what we just did, when we did the Baruch Hu, right, we just blessed God. So when we're doing Baruch Shem Kavod, we are specifically blessing God's name, a label for something which is beyond words. And I also suggested at that time that to experience the deeper wisdom of the nature of reality, we must access something that is non-rational, non-language-based, and not in our standard everyday consciousness. So when we utter Baruch Shem, blessed is the name, we are declaring that the practice of using words is a sacred practice too. we are using labels. These labels could be God, they could be Adonai, they could be Tao, they could be many things for this ultimate, undifferentiated, ineffable unity of all being. This practice of using labels for that, we've just said is okay, not just okay, but is blessed, Baruch Shem. Okay, that's the end of the recap. I've brought you back now. Okay, so I'm going to skip over kavod, which is glory, or I think Rabbi Olivier translates it as splendor. I don't know what that is. What is splendor? So we're going to skip that, and we're going to go straight to malchuto. Okay, that's the next, that's like the fourth word. Okay, if you know about Kabbalah, you probably know that malchut is a sephirah in the tree of life, and there's probably a whole davar right there, but I'm not going to do it because I don't know anything about Kabbalah other than what I've heard from Rabbi Olivier. So I'm just going to tackle this word malchuto just from what I know, not being a scholar of Kabbalah. Olivier translates the word malchuto as presence in your prayer book, but more literally, it's kingdom. And we're all egalitarian feminists here, right? Mm-hmm. And kingdom is going to be one of those words that's going to raise hackles. I also looked up, what does it mean to raise hackles? But that's okay. Okay, kingdom is going to raise hackles, and I get why Olivier uses a word that doesn't hackle raise, why he says presence instead of kingdom. But then I wanted to go just a little deeper here. I understand from listening to Olivier's talks that there's a feminine aspect of God, Elohim, which we experience as human beings. And it's the masculine aspect of God, Yud-He Vav-He, or Adonai, which is infinitely vast and unknowable. So kingdom is pointing to this masculine aspect of God, right? Because it's a king. And even if the masculine aspect of God, Yud-He Vav-He, is indeed that infinitely vast, ineffable, deeper than we can possibly understand, a kingdom is not boundless, right? A kingdom has boundaries. If you're in the kingdom of Norway, well, it wasn't a kingdom before 1872, so it's bounded in time. And then you cross the border and you go into Sweden, you're no longer in the kingdom of Norway anymore. So a kingdom, by its word, has a boundary. It's bound in time and space. And yet, okay, here's the next word in this, the next few words of this. Here we are. Immediately after saying malchuto, then we go on to say leolam va'ed, right? Universal, leolam va'ed, unending. I mean, this is just like, okay, so we're calling it a kingdom and something with boundaries, and at the same time we say, but there's no boundaries. We're saying it goes on forever. And at the same time, this is another one of these Jewish koans, a holy contradiction that I encourage you to take into your meditations and try to deal with. And the whole thing, just what we can grasp in our ordinary minds, that which is greater than that is Baruch. It's blessed, it's holy, in both its limited versions and its unlimited. The Shem, the Malchuto, the whole thing is blessed. Okay, please rise for the Shema.
Join me on page 6
Thank you.
together.
Shema
Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Listen, Israel, the eternal manifests as all that is. The eternal is one. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Blessed is the name. The splendor of its presence shines eternally. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
And remain standing, and we'll move to the Ve'ahavta.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shiftecha b'beitecha u'v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam leot al yadecha ve'hayu letotafot bein einecha u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim le'elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. Amen. So much, Claire. We shall now turn to page 7. You may be seated. I apologize. Please sit. We will now turn to page 7 for Hashkivenu.
Help us, eternal our God, to lie down in peace and to awaken again to renewed life.
Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Let us realize the vision of your wholeness, that we may experience the salvation that is your name.
Shelter us from all that we fear. Help us see your way even through times of darkness. God, our coming and our going. Grant us life and peace. Now and always, now and always, now and always. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let there be love. V'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Let there be peace. Let peace and friendship be our shelter through all storms.
Ufaros aleinu, echad shelomecha, v'taknenu beitzah tova milefanecha.
V'hoshienu, v'hoshienu, hoshienu. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let there be love. Let there be peace. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from all storms.
Eternal God, help us walk with our companions to live with open hearts and eternity in our souls. Let there be love. Let us lie down in peace. Let us rise up to life and to light and to confidence. Let there be love.
Let there be peace.
Let there be peace.
Let there be light.
Let there be love.
And now, as we turn to page 8 for the Amidah, we would like to welcome Rob Spiegel to share his thoughts and lead us.
First, I think we should thank you. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Nailed it. So, when I decided to introduce the Amidah, because nobody else was volunteering for it. Actually, it's a very special prayer that I have lots of memories about. I brought a very special book with me. This is called the Daily Prayer Book by Joseph H. Hertz, by the late Chief Rabbi Joseph H. Hertz, Hertz. And in the front flap, it says, "This unique prayer book by the late chief rabbi of the British Empire contains the most comprehensive English commentary and introduction ever published, and is recognized as one of the greatest historical works of Jewish liturgy." Interesting. It's inscribed, I'll hold it up for you. It's got a beautiful inscription that says, "To Robert, with warmest wishes, to your bar mitzvah, from Ernest A. Adler." So when I was asked to introduce this prayer, this man came to my mind. I was, of course, 13 when he presented me with this book. And among all of my teachers, both Jewish and non-Jewish, he stands out as probably the most impactful teacher I've ever encountered. He was, of course, survivor of the Holocaust. And he was known in our synagogue, Beth Abraham Synagogue in Dayton, Ohio, as the Reverend Ernest A. Adler. We all called him the Reverend. Not usually assigned to a Jewish person, I think, but he was the Reverend. And he taught, now you got to remember, I was 10, 11, he taught us as 10, 11, and 12-year-olds. And he taught us all of the chanting of the prayers. He turned us into cantors and prepared us for our bar and bat mitzvahs. Just started doing bat mitzvahs back then, by the way. And he added something to the recitation of all of the prayers that I really can't describe in words. He was reverent. He was reverent in his teaching of the prayers. And he taught us a couple of things that really stuck with me. Now, he made us so adept at the prayers. We led the youth congregation of our synagogue. I was actually the cantor and did the whole service every Saturday morning, along with my friend Bernie Eisenholtz, who acted as rabbi. He couldn't carry a tune, so I got to be the cantor, and he was a good rabbi. In fact, Bernie did go on to be, he's in Israel, and went on to be a rabbi. Much to the consternation of my mother, I did not go on to be a cantor or a doctor. But she was okay with what I became. What he taught me about the Amidah, back to the Amidah, and he taught me about every prayer, is that we should never recite them from memory. He said, never, ever recite these prayers from memory. He said, always read them. Read them from the book. Don't be so arrogant as to think that you know the content and the context of the words you're reading. In Hebrew, most of us, we weren't fluent in Hebrew. We were chanting the prayers, not necessarily knowing what they meant. He wanted us to know what they meant. So, as we do the Amidah tonight, I actually invite you to make sure that you do not recite the prayer from memory. And I invite you, so I read the Amida before I came over in English. Again, I've done that many times. The other thing he taught us about the Amida, if you've never read it, the translation, is that it is, the Amida is done in every service, every day, 3 times a day. It's repeated and repeated and repeated. And it is the simple repetition, and this is what he taught us, of our adoration of the divine. It expresses our love of the divine, and really nothing else. So read the words as we chant it. Read them in English if you'd like, or Hebrew, but read them tonight. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And on those words of wisdom, we rise and we read the words together on the top of page 8. Together in Hebrew, Adonai Sfatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Eternal One, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Adonai Sifatai Tiftach Ufi Yagi V'yagi Tehillah Tehilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Leah V'Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chaste Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Gula Lifnei B'neihem Leman Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen
Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechaye hakoata, rav lehoshia. Mechalkel chaim bechesed, mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, somech noflim verofe cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishene afar. Micha mocha ba'al gevurot, umido melach, melech memit umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hakol.
Thank you so much, Rob. You may be seated. And I would now like to welcome Kate Elias up to do our Devar. Give, do.
Shabbat Shalom. So the title of my Torah talk tonight is Dvar Devarim, meaning a word about words. And I'd like to say a word about that. So you know Dvar, it means word or thing, and it's what we usually call our Torah talks, Dvar Torah. Devarim, the plural of Dvar, is the title of this week's parashah, which is also the opening portion of the final book of Torah, whose Hebrew name is, you guessed it, Devarim. In other words, the whole book is named for words, specifically the words Moses spoke to the Israelites as they were preparing to cross the Jordan River and enter the Promised Land. I'm dwelling on this because I have an issue with the more common name of Dvarim, which is Deuteronomy, a Greek neologism meaning second telling of the law. Too often in my Catholic childhood, I heard the canard about Judaism being a religion of law, far inferior to the Christian religion of love, as if pogroms and cultural genocide were proof of Christian love. So the implication that Moses' final words were all about law really sticks in my craw. If I were to choose a vernacular title, I would call it simply the Book of the Words being the Shema and the Ve'ahavta, which we just sang a little while ago, with their existential call to love the one manifesting as all that is. The book is about so much more than laws. But to keep it simple, I'll use Deuteronomy when talking about the book and Devarim when talking about this week's parashah. Because it's the summarizing installment of Torah, I'd like to talk for a few minutes about the overall book of Deuteronomy and what it means to me personally. And for that, let's back up and look at the big picture of all 5 books of Moses from the point of view of our own lives. I see the arc of my life, and I invite you to look at yours the same way, as a kind of mini Torah. Mine had its genesis when I was born into a family with its own backstory, its beginnings in Tyrol and in Ireland, its migrations to the US, its spread from Pennsylvania Dutch country to Montana, where my parents met, and finally to Seattle during World War II. And that's where I grew up. And you? Take a few minutes and just, not minutes, literally, and just flash on the connections and migrations of your forebears that led to your own genesis in the world. By age 2 or 3, my little ego had been formed, seemingly without my doing, and like a little slave driver, it has affected my spiritual and mental well-being ever since. Not always for the worse, by the way. Ego has gotten a bad rap, but it's a mistake to see it always in negative terms. It was my ego's desire for a healthier spiritual life, for example, that led me to Beit Aleph. Anyway, we all have our stories of conditioning and ingrained habits that have led us to our personal Mitzrayim and are on a lifelong exodus toward greater awareness and well-being. And just like the biblical exodus, it's not an easy trip. Round and round we go, as in a game of Monopoly, and we don't even get to collect $200 every time we pass go. An essential guide on this non-ego trip is our personal Leviticus, learning the rules of the road and acquiring the skills we need to live in peace with our fellow travelers. That may not be the most exciting part of life, just as Leviticus may not be anyone's favorite book of Torah, but it's spiritually invaluable because it lays the foundation on which we may build a temple in our hearts, just as the Israelites built an ark in the desert, so that the Holy One may dwell within. Somewhere in the middle of our lives, say between 20 and 50 or so, there's a period that could very well be called Bamidbar, in the wilderness, which is the Hebrew title of the book of Numbers. Both titles are perfect for this period because we get so caught up in the dailiness of things that can be numbered, our degrees, our jobs, our relationships, our stuff, that we seem to be sleepwalking in a spiritual wilderness much of the time. I don't know about you, but I can see that my own middle years were sometimes as disjointed as the stories in the book of Numbers, and as amusing, disheartening, and sometimes uplifting as those stories can be. And now we come to Deuteronomy, the years of summing up, of consolidating and making sense of life's experiences. We're like old Deuteronomy in the musical Cats, who's lived many lives in succession, and the fading beauty Griselda, who yowls in the moonlight about the pathos and the pleasures of memory. We tell and retell our stories, maybe more than we realize, adding and changing details according to the state of our memory on any given day. It's all part of putting our lives in perspective and gradually preparing to cross over our personal Jordan River. That's where I am in my own storyline. I'm in my Deuteronomy years, and that's where Moses is at the beginning of this week's parashah. It starts with the phrase, Ele hadvarim asher diber Moshe al kol Yisrael. These are the words Moses spoke to all Israel. Somewhere along the way, I learned that this particular choice of words, using diber rather than the more usual vayomer, means listen up, pay attention. These are the words of our greatest prophet in the last months of his life, summing up our history and summoning us to continue on the path of Torah even after he's no longer here to oversee our halting progress. Moses undertook to expound his teachings, the story goes, but first he has to unload about how unpleasant it has been to lead this querulous, quarrelsome people through the wilderness. How could I bear your bear unaided the trouble of you and the burden and the bickering, he says. You sulked in your tents and had no faith in God. And it's all because of you that it took so long to reach the promised land, and now I won't get to enter it with you. Note that he's not addressing the original tribes that followed him out of Israel. They're all dead at this point. Instead, he's addressing their children and saying, you, as if they bear the sins of their parents. And indeed, there are verses elsewhere in Torah about sins of the fathers being passed to succeeding generations. I suppose we can infer that we, the offspring some 90 generations removed, are also guilty as charged, as quarrelsome, stiff-necked, and lacking in faith as our ancestors were. And why not? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, as the saying goes, especially in Eden. And human nature doesn't seem to have evolved nearly as radically as our knowledge and technology would suggest. We may not literally bear the guilt of our parents' sins, but we certainly inherit the traits, traditions, and tendencies that families and societies pass from one generation to the next. But then, as if not to demoralize them by harping too long on their maddening faults, Moses brightens his tone and reminds them of how often he would say, "Up, we've been in this midbar long enough, let's move on." They won some battles and lost a few, and the interplay of successes and failures reminds me of what my wise Jewish shrink would say when I kept stumbling in the early days of my own mitzrayim many years ago. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and start all over again. Or as Rabbi Olivier often says, more simply, quoting one of his meditation teachers, begin again. Can't you just hear the conversation between Moses and God? What shall I do with these people? And God says, begin again. This, it seems to me, is a recurring theme throughout Torah. From the first burst of light, and how breathtakingly beautiful that must have been as we are starting to glimpse through the Webb telescope, to renewal of the earth after the flood, to recurring new beginnings as we keep trying, failing, and trying again to keep our covenant to be a holy people, the constant message has been, begin again. Think about that tomorrow, which is Tisha B'Av, the day on which the temple was destroyed, and we were driven into exile, not once, but twice. Each time, we began again. The first time, we returned and built an even grander temple. By the second time, we were already learning to connect with the divine, not through animal sacrifice, but through prayer, study, and ordinary mitzvot. We didn't need a temple for that. Thus began the rabbinic era of Judaism, which I think deserves a feast day of its own. And thus also began the diaspora of the Jewish people, which we may grieve in principle, but which also means that the path of Torah is being walked in practically every land on earth. For me, it means that a questing soul born into an Irish Catholic family on the other side of the planet from the Jewish homeland was able to join the tribe and stand here on the bima tonight sharing a Devar Torah. It's that tribal and personal determination to begin again, to renew our covenant with the eternal in ever-changing circumstances that has kept our people going for 3,000 years and counting. And it's the daily possibility of new beginnings in the journey of life that we celebrate when we greet each new day with one of my favorite prayers, the Modeh or Modah Ani. How grateful I am to be in your presence, source and essence of all being. It's not just a morning prayer, by the way. I like to sing it off and on all day, whenever I wake up to that divine presence. So, Celia, Joel, let's all wake up to that presence in ourselves and each other and begin again right now.
Thank you, Kate. Yasher koach. And as the lights come down and we settle in for meditation, I would like to invite Mary Ann Spiegel to lead us.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here with all of you for this Shabbat. And I think we were supposed to introduce ourselves with our name and how long we've been a member of the congregation. And for us, it's about 5 years. 6 years, Rups. 7 years. Okay. Well, time flies. And I'm delighted to, honored to be able to lead you in meditation tonight. And I'd like to share a healing meditation and enter it in whatever way you feel comfortable. If you're comfortable closing your eyes, that probably gives you a presence, a space. If not, that's okay too. So I want you now just to bring your attention to your breath. And I want you to take a nice, deep breath down to the very base of your spine. So breathing in, breathing up to the heart, holding the breath there just for a moment, and then releasing that breath up and out. And let's do that 2 more times, breathing deeply, deep, 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 as if you're breathing into the roots of a magnificent tree. Breathing all the way up the trunk of the tree to the heart, holding the breath there just for a moment, and releasing that breath up and out. And let's do that 1 more time, breathing deeply, deep, deep, deep into the roots of that magnificent oak tree, breathing all the way up the trunk of the tree to the heart, holding the breath there, and then releasing that breath. This time, breathing out just a little bit more so that you can totally cleanse your lungs. And now I want you to bring your attention to your core, and some of you have already done this, but if you have dropped a grounding cord into Mother Earth, then just check it and see if it's really in good shape. And if it needs repair, it will just automatically replace. For those of you who may never have dropped a grounding cord, I invite you to do that. And just imagine that you can drop a cord that will connect you to the earth. It can be any shade of green, thick or thin. You can design it according to what you need. And just know that you are always connected and can really ground yourself. So now I want you again to bring your attention to the base of your spine. And I want you to breathe up white light. And if you don't visualize, then just feel light. Breathing up your entire spinal cord all the way up to that place that the Hindus call the third eye, that place above and between your eyebrows. And hold your breath there just for a moment, and then let that white light shower through your entire body, as if you could just take a shower in white light. And we're going to do that again, breathing all the way up from the base of the spine, breathing up white light or feeling it rise through the spinal cord up to the third eye, holding the breath there, and then letting that breath go, feeling that white light shower through your whole body. It just automatically goes wherever it needs to go. And we're going to do that one last time, breathing all the way up, breathing that white light up the spine to the third eye, holding the breath there, and then releasing that breath, feeling that white light moving through every cell and all the spaces between the cells throughout your entire body. And now I want you to imagine that you can breathe in the golden light of consciousness. You can breathe it right into your core. You can, if you like, allow breathing in the purple light of your highest self, higher power, oneness, however you like to think about that, and allow it to join the other lights in the core, and see the green light of the grounding cord, the white light of the third eye, the golden light of consciousness, and the purple light of your highest self. See them all swirling around, really permeating the entire core of your body. And now we're going to surround ourselves. It's always important to surround yourself in protection. We're going to surround ourselves in an aura of light, starting at the top of the head, going over the head and under the feet, side to side, front and back, almost like being in a beautiful egg of light. And this protection allows positive energy to freely flow back and forth, but protects us from toxic energy. And sometimes a little toxic energy gets through, and that's okay. We can feel where it is in our body and just patch up the aura. And now for the last few minutes of our time in the presence of oneness, I want to invite you to create a space for yourself in your imagination. Perhaps it's a beautiful garden created just for you. Perhaps it's a place in nature or your own home that is very special to you. Really be there now. Use all your senses, the sounds and sights, the smells, the feelings. And as you continue to breathe, breathing in and breathing out, I want you to allow yourself to feel the presence of the divine, however you understand that. The highest self, Mother Nature, Shekinah, Mother, Father, however you, the great mystery, however you understand that, just allow yourself to sit in that presence, feeling complete and total love and compassion for self, knowing that you are precious. And just let yourself be there and breathe. And I will let you know when we'll return. So when you're ready, gently bring yourself back to our room together. Make a note of any messages you may have received during this time, or not. And we'll return now to our service. Pardon? The list? No, okay. Okay, and now it's time to note and remember the people who are struggling with illness or health challenges. Daniel Clark, Maxwell Bernard, John Gorham, Katie Margaret Bank, Lynn Carroll, Eileen Wellens, Alan Walton, Arlene Ross, Sydney Hannah Young, Greg Lesnar, Katie Berry, Shelley Cohen, Sandy Morris, Anita Vargas, Janie Leonhardt, Laura Gluck, Libel Cohen, Eddie Tonsman, Marisa Lacabe, Freda Elka Bat Shulami, Sue Ann Abel, Jane Colombini, please forgive me, Louie and Betty Ann Richmond, Dolores and Pam Heller, Stewie Ehrlich, Denny Oswald, James Mahar, Ricky Levin, Marilyn Coleman, Trevor Dolan, Adam Fryer, Edward Mosshart, Carol Javins, Shoshana Kaufman McDonald, Susan McDonald, Stan Sims, Mary Allison Castleberry, Jeff Oakley, Elizabeth Heath, Kenyatta Bennett, Kim, Shelley Prince, Emily Hieseger, Linda Damitroff, Donna Glosser, Amy Austin, Ed Diaz, Saul Liskin, Evie Liskin, Barry Ryan Thuneman, Cheryl Balch, Bob and Kathy Wack, Stephanie Prince, Tom and Cynthia Curran, and Brandon O'Brien.
Thank you, Marianne. Let's take all the wonderful healing energy that we have felt and breathed in our meditation and share in Refayenu on page 34.
us when we call for help. Save us when we're in need. Source of compassion, blessing and grace, we humbly seek your embrace. Refayenu mekor rachamim v'ner ofeh. Hoshienu v'nivashea ki tehilatenu atah. Hear us when we call for help. Save us when we're in need. Source of compassion, blessing and grace, we humbly seek your embrace. Refayenu mekor rachamim v'ner ofeh. Hoshienu v'nivashea ki tehilatenu atah.
And as we come back to our service, I would like to invite once again Kate Elias to lead us in the Aleinu.
So yes, we are at the concluding moments of our Shabbat service, the Aleinu and the Kaddish. The Aleinu is one of the oldest prayers in the service, dating back at least to the Second Temple period, and folklore attributes it to Joshua at the time of his victory at Jericho. The word Aleinu literally means it's on us, or it's up to us, which is a little more imperative than just saying we have been given this way, as we read in our prayer book. Actually, a lot more imperative. It's tantamount to saying we take on ourselves the duty we have been given without equivocation. We will do it. I love the placement of the Aleinu toward the end of the service, when we're almost ready to go out the door, or turn to another streaming device. It reminds me of the priestly dismissal that I heard every Sunday of the world during my years in the Episcopal Church. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord. That's what we're saying we'll do when we say Aleinu. We are taking it on ourselves to love and honor the oneness of all being, not only while we're here in our cozy shul, but also when we walk out the door and go our separate ways in a very challenging world. So I was going to say, let's stand face to face with the Torah and make that promise now. Unfortunately, the Torah is not home. She's on vacation along with the rabbi. So just stand and face the ark where the Torah should be.
Join us at the top of page 12 in English and then in Hebrew. We are the ones given this way of praising the Holy One of all being, that we might understand and express the greatness of the one who shapes all creation. We celebrate our uniqueness and that of others, and seek to discover the wonder that we are. Therefore, we bend the knees, we bow, and we proclaim our gratitude before the ruler of all rulers, the Holy One of all being. As it is said, then we shall truly realize the Eternal One as universal being, and on that day, the unity of being shall be celebrated by all. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'teit gedula li'otzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kamishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech, malchei hamalachim, hakadosh baruch hu, v'nemar, v'haya Adonai, lemelech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
And here we are now at the Kaddish, and that's our final prayer of the service, offering love and gratitude for the lives of our beloved friends and relatives who have gone before us into the great beyond. And also, on this evening before Tisha B'Av, I would also include in our Kaddish all of those who lost their lives at the time of the destruction of the two temples, at the time of the expulsion from Spain, which was timed for that same date. And also, there was a transport of 250,000 Jews from Warsaw to Treblinka, also timed for Tisha B'Av. So include those also, I think, in your hearts and prayers. You could sit if you want, because there is a list of names to be read tonight. Passings in the last month: Estelle Delson, Tara Levin Delson's mother; Lillian Coppel, the mother of Shelley Coppel; and Peter Rothenberg, a former Beit Aleph member. A little shocking to see that on this list, actually. My yard sites to be honored tonight: Myron Levin, Lila Claren Grossman, Patricia Baldauf, Annie Jime, Dr. Agi Schuler, Dr. Dejo Schuler, Robert Cowan, Janet Goldstein, Robert White, Ann Manson, and Abby Calvo. Passings in the last year: Mike Libin, Jean Warner, Willard Harlow, Elizabeth Egan, Gilbert Feldman, Lovey Cohen, Ruth Valdi Cowan, Marshall Hartman, Janet Koloff, Roberta Allure, Samuel Gershonovich, Harry Laufer, Pauline Morris, Daniel Glosser, Michael Spiegel, Chris Werner Mohel, Nan Benson, Donna Marie Harris, Jerry Sutton, Lillian Denker, Marie Gordon, Ted Kuwana, Sylvia Singer, Vicky Bross, Michael Stern, Phyllis Levine, Marian Meisinger, Leonard Shaw, Dr. Joan Margaret, Dr. Murray Molikin, Robert Platre, Donald Meadow, Leah Vetter, Simon Garcia, Thomas Might, Ira Horowitz, Alan White, and Kiana. Please stand.
Join us. Oh, sorry. I apologize, Kate. But if you want to lead, will you take your microphone? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So please join us on page 13 for the Kaddish.
Yeah.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute v'chayechon u'v'yom echon u'v'chaye v'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithalev v'yithalal shemei dekudesha barichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi sholama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael Ve'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh Shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol Yoshvei Tevel, Ve'imru Amen. May the one who creates harmony above make peace for us, for all the household of Israel, and for all the peoples of the world. And let us say, Amen. Thank you, Kate. Do we have a Melissa in the house? Melissa, thank you so much for giving us our evening announcements. I appreciate you.
Hi, thank you, Celia. Thank you for leading today. This is really lovely for you to stand in. So I do have a few announcements. My name is Melissa Anderson. For those who don't know me, I am the office manager. I am the one responding to the emails and the phone calls if you email us. I do have a couple announcements. Next Shabbat is going to be on August 19th. This is going to be a Bring Your Friend Shabbat. So that's a really great opportunity for our community members to bring in somebody who you want to share a special home to. And let them see why we are special. Also, the High Holy Days are coming up. Last Monday, we just opened up our registration for community members only. So this will be open until August 15th for members only. So if you want to hop in on betolive.org, log in and get your tickets before we open it up to everyone. We open it up on August 15th, and we are doing it in person and online this year. So that's very exciting. We're very excited about that. You can also find a lot of our information on our app. If you have not yet, go to a Google store or your Apple store, search Bet Olive Meditative Synagogue, and download our app. There's a tab, says HHD 5783, has a bunch of information. Thanks to Pete, he put our full calendar, the dates, links to registration, and also, if you are interested in volunteering, we have a lot of committees and we need a lot of help. So you can either email Cindy Campbell at walk2heal@gmail.com, or you can email me at administrator@betolive.org, and I'd be happy to give you the information there as well. You can also go find this information on our website, www.betolive.org. We've got a big banner, just click it, and a bunch of information pops up. We have the first workshop is September 13th. Also, if you want to do our High Holy Days workshop. A couple more announcements. We do have a book club, the Jewish Book Club for our community members. This is really fun. It's the first Monday of every month. You can feel free to email me and I will send you the registration information for that. And lastly, I hate to break it to you all, but we are closing out summer. Summer's ending. It is August. I don't know if you are aware of that. It's very sad. But what this does mean is next month is September, and we are bringing back Bali, which is a really interesting and meaningful learning experience we do. And we are looking for all of community members to share something meaningful they do or an experience that's been meaningful to them. And we use this. This is led by Stu Heller, so if you're interested in kind of being a part of this Zoom personal experience with us, you can email him or again, email me, and I will give you all the information for that. And I think that's all I have, so thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Well, we are at the end of our service. I see some of you are still standing, which is great because we're going to sing a song. And you're going to want to dance. We are going to say goodbye with the same words we ended our Kaddish with, Oseh Shalom. Let us all go in peace and share peace and love and harmony together. Oseh Shalom bimroma. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromam hu yaseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh shalom bimromah, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru amen. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Join us downstairs. I believe we will have some wine and some challah, and we'll say some blessings and eat some food and do some schmoozing. Also, Cindy would very much appreciate if there were a couple volunteers to hang back and help us de-bet-olify our space and bring it back to CSL. Thank you again. Shabbat shalom.